I learned the name of the city by accident. Not from a sign, not from a map, not because someone welcomed me. I learned it because someone yelled it. The driver slammed the door of the van, lit a cigarette, and said, "Welcome to El Paso. Everybody out." That was it. No pause, no emotion, no ceremony. El Paso, Texas. A city sitting so close to the border that it still smelled like it. The sun was already high, even though my body swore it was still night. My legs felt weak when I stepped onto the pavement, like they didn't fully trust the ground yet. We were alive. We were across. And suddenly, nobody cared. The van drove away before we could even move. Dust followed it like a memory refusing to let go. I stood there with a small bag, borrowed clothes, and a name but still felt heavy in my mouth. Masha Rivers. El Paso didn't look dangerous at first. That's what scared me. There were cars, stores opening, people walking dogs, holding coffee cups, talking about normal things. They didn't see us, or maybe they saw us and chose not to. Either way, we were invisible. Ava wasn't there. That was the first thing that hit me. She had been everywhere up until that point. Every instruction, every rule, every quiet warning. But here, in the open air, under a bright Texas sky, she was gone. Someone else was in charge now. A man with a shaved head and tired eyes pointed down the street. "You walk," he said. "No groups, no talking, no looking back." I wanted to ask where we were going, how long it would take, what came next. I didn't ask. I was learning. I walked. Each step felt like I was stepping further away from the person I used to be, even though I couldn't clearly remember her face anymore. El Paso stretched out around me like a place that had seen this before, too many times. We ended up in a neighborhood that looked unfinished. Half-painted houses, dry yards, windows covered with metal bars, even when nothing inside looked worth stealing. This wasn't the America for movies. This was the part they don't film. We were led into a small house with a cracked door and a yard full of dust instead of grass. Inside, the air was thick and warm. Fans worked harder than they could handle. There were already people there. Men sitting on the floor, women standing near the walls, a child asleep on a couch that smelled like sweat and old fabric. Nobody smiled. Nobody asked names. Someone handed me a bottle of water. I drank it too fast and felt sick right after. "Don't drink like that," a woman whispered. "Your body thinks it's still running." I nodded, even though I wasn't sure that was the reason. I sat on the floor and pressed my back against the wall. For the first time since the crossing, no one was telling me what to do. That scared me more than any rule. Time passed strangely in that house. No clocks, no clear sense of morning or afternoon. At some point, the door opened again. Ava walked in. She looked different here. Not weaker, just sharper. Her eyes moved fast, counting, measuring. She took in the room in seconds. When she saw me, she didn't smile. She nodded once. "You made it," she said. Not as a celebration, more like confirmation. She waited until everyone was quiet. "This is El Paso. If you thought crossing the border was the hard part, forget that." No one spoke. From now on, the danger doesn't come from uniforms. It comes from neighbors, employers, friends, anyone who decides you're a problem. She let that sink in. "Your job is simple," she said. "Don't be noticed." Someone laughed nervously. Ava looked at him. He stopped. "You don't go alone. You don't argue. You don't complain. You don't tell stories about where you came from." Her eyes landed on me again. "And you don't use your real name," she added. even if you forget what it is. That night, I slept on the floor with my shoes still on. I dreamed I was still in the truck, still holding my breath. When I woke up, my heart was racing like something had followed me across the border. Days blurred together. We stayed inside most of the time, curtains closed, voices low. Food came from somewhere. Work offers, too. Not real offers, more like instructions. One morning, Ava called my name. Not Masha. "Rivers," she said. I followed her into the kitchen. She leaned against the counter and spoke quietly. "There's a job. Cleaning. Cash, no questions." "Where?" I asked. She smiled a little, not kindly. "El Paso," she said. "That's the joke. Everything is here, and nothing belongs to you." The building was a small motel near the highway, the kind people used for one night and tried to forget. The manager didn't look at me when Ava introduced us. He handed me gloves and pointed. I cleaned rooms where couples had fought, where people had cried, where someone had left blood on the sheets and didn't bother to explain. No one asked who I was. They only cared that I worked fast. At the end of the day, the manager gave me cash folded tight. I counted it twice. It wasn't much, but it was real. On the walk back, I realized something. I wasn't scared of being caught anymore. I was scared of getting used to this. That night, the house was quieter. Some people were gone, new ones took their place. Ava sat outside at the steps, smoking. I sat next to her. "El Paso feels empty," I said. She exhaled smoke slowly. "It's full," she replied. "Just not for you." I asked her why she did this, why she helped. She laughed softly. "I don't help, I manage." That answer stayed with me. A week passed, then another. I learned which streets felt safer, which faces to avoid. I learned that police cars made my chest tighten even when they passed without slowing. I learned that freedom could feel a lot like a cage if you were always careful. One evening, as I was leaving the motel, I felt it. That feeling you get when someone is too close. I didn't turn around. I kept walking. My heart beat faster with every step. When I reached the corner, I stopped. The footsteps stopped too. I waited. Nothing. I told myself I was imagining things, but that night I didn't sleep. El Paso didn't feel neutral anymore. It felt curious, like the city had finally noticed me. The next day, Ava pulled me aside. "You need to be careful," she said. "With what?" I asked. "With surviving," she replied. "People think the border is a line. It's not." She leaned closer. "It's a filter, and you're still being tested." I didn't ask who was testing me. I already knew. That night, I stood at the window and looked out on the street. Cars passed, lights flickered. Somewhere in this city, someone knew my name. Not Masha Rivers. The other one. And I knew then that El Paso wasn't just where my new life started. It was where my past was slowly catching up. Watch the next episode.